You live in the image you have of the world. Every one of us lives in a different world, with different space and different time. Alejandro Jodorowsky. In late 2023, I took a road trip from Arizona to California. I brought a 35mm Leica M3, a Fuji digital camera, and documented the process along the way. At the end of this journey, I would turn 40 years old. So here's the road to 40. What brought me to Arizona in the first place was to visit my friends Jay and Jamie and their 2 boys. They're from my hometown in Pennsylvania, Lancaster. So it was really nice to reconnect with the 2 of them, and especially reconnect in such a beautiful place like Sedona.
Some of these rocks look like they in cars.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? It's very possible that they were.
I'm so glad that I got to experience Sedona for the first time with the 4 of them. They were just so excited to show me around, and I couldn't ask for a better group to experience such a beautiful place with. We've been talking about it for about a year now, so I'm finally glad that we got to experience this together, and I hope there's many more times to come. In Sedona, I mainly used the Fuji X-T4 with the film simulation Acros, mainly because what I had in my Leica M3 was Fuji Acros, and also I didn't want to spend too much time thinking about my camera and more time exploring and spending time with friends. Sedona is such a magical place. I'm so happy I got to explore it as a photographer. The atmosphere and lighting is perfect. It's such a photogenic place. After spending some time in Sedona, we headed back to Mesa and the surrounding areas, where I would spend the next 5 days exploring. I would say by far one of my favorite things about the area of Mesa Tempe was the murals and the architecture. There was beautiful architecture in Tempe, and there was awesome murals, and it was super artsy in Mesa, so I was definitely in my element as a photographer in this area, and I just really enjoyed those attributes of both Mesa and Tempe. Getting to spend the 5 days I did in the Phoenix area, I got to do a lot of wandering around the Mesa and Tempe area, whether it was visiting the guys over at Park Coffee or getting to hang out with Jay and Jamie and the boys over at their house. I'm glad that Mesa was my home base for most of the Arizona trip. After I explored the Phoenix area for a couple days, I headed about an hour and a half south to Tucson, Arizona. Before heading into the city of Tucson, I found this really cool property and church just outside the city. I explored that for an hour or two and got some amazing exposures, and then I headed to downtown Tucson. Once I got to the downtown Tucson area, it was mid-morning. I spent the next few hours exploring the city, but there was even more murals than Mesa and Tempe. There was a bunch of old music venues and a lot of great places to eat. Tucson was a very fun place to explore. What was so impressive is the style of murals were highlighting indigenous cultures mixed with graffiti street art. In Tucson, I mainly used the Leica M3 with the Fuji Acros black and white film because the city had such a vintage style to it. After Tucson, I headed back to the Mesa area, where I would spend the remaining days and my time in Arizona. After living on Maui, Hawaii for the past 4 years, and this being my first time returning to the mainland, I feel very fortunate that I got to visit friends from back home, especially visiting them in such a beautiful place like Arizona. Whether it was Sedona, Tucson, the surrounding Phoenix area, or the desert botanical gardens, I felt like this first half of the trip was a success, and I couldn't ask for a better group of people to be able to share it with. Jay and Jamie have built a beautiful life with their 2 boys, and I feel honored that they were able to show me around where they currently are living in Arizona. At this point in the journey, I leave Arizona and I head across the southwest of the US towards California. To be continued in part 2.